the realest, best podcast in the game.
Y'all like see Bluetooth ads on like TikTok or like YouTube?
Bluetooth?
Bluetooth.
No. It's a like
It's,
a Viagra.
yeah, but it's like useful
Yeah.
and it's a chewable.
I've only seen
the 85 South show.
I mean,
really? They advertise that?
yeah, and a lot of people do. $1 million worth of game advertises it.
Really?
A lot
What's it called?
of YouTubers who make like comedy videos.
Tim Podcast did.
They will do it and like they'll make the comedy video.
Timothy
Bluetooth
did like
ad.
that.
I don't watch his podcast.
I did. It was cool. They used to shut up, so it was lit. And Nikki Blade is fine. So.
Yeah, I don't want to hear her speak though.
There's my water bottle over there.
Goodness.
Go get it.
Drew?
Huh?
Please?
Which one? That one right there?
Yeah.
It's literally the only water bottle.
I was looking for like an actual plastic like that.
Nah, blood. We bougie over here up the echelon. Got that good Healy, what's it called?
You don't even know how to pronounce it.
Helimix.
You're
No, this
not
is not an
saying
ad.
that at all.
I was not. I was gonna say Healy or something. Ever since I started working out, I've been drinking more water. But
Isn't that kind of the point?
Makes sense.
along
yeah.
with that, I pee every 5 seconds.
That's kind of
Yeah.
I
kind
literally
That's how your
pee
body
17,000
with
times.
like almost any liquid.
But, you know, health is wealth or whatever they say. Plus I'm trying to be a GQ model, so.
I've always had a great balance, or a great ratio rather, of water intake to pee. So I can like drink a lot of water without having to pee.
I taste my smoothie from earlier, even though I washed this out with soap.
That's what happens.
Did the smoothie have banana in it?
It was strawberry, mango, and kiwi.
That sounds
With
good.
protein and oats and soy milk. Almond milk, sorry. It was
I
good.
hate milk and smoothies.
Why? Why?
Ew.
Because then you just taste the fruit.
But what are you trying to taste?
What do you mean?
Well, mine had protein in it, so I didn't
I
really taste
understand
the
what you
milk.
mean.
So what are you trying to taste when you have a smoothie?
What do you mean? I feel like the milk makes it super creamy, and I don't like it creamy. I'd rather be.
Oh, I like
But
that.
what is the taste that you're trying to taste? Because you said then you just taste the fruit.
Yeah. Oh, well, you say if I make a smoothie, it's like strawberry, mango, pineapple. And I feel like if I put milk in that, that's nasty. I can't do it.
Well, yeah, because of the pineapple. But I did strawberry.
I can make
kiwi.
anything and put milk in it, and
Yeah.
I still taste
I
the
used to put
fruit.
yogurt in mine.
And I put, I had
That's a
some
good
oats
Maybe
in
combination.
I
it.
don't think I'm just not a dairy person.
Probably not. It's okay.
I'm not a huge
Yeah, I
dairy
feel like
person
you-
either, but
I felt like yogurt gave it a better texture. That's really all I was worried about. And I didn't really want to put a liquid in it, period.
I feel like I'm a whole gym bro now. I got
my phone,
the
every time I
wrist
get it, it's
things,
broken.
the weight.
There's
the
nothing
weight.
I can do
Yeah,
about it. It's gonna keep doing that.
Earlier with my headphones in, I thought, at first I thought somebody
Excuse me.
pooed it. And I was like, no, it couldn't have been that.
That's
But
what I
nobody
thought.
said anything.
No,
That's
yeah.
what I was like.
And that's why I asked you if that was the battery.
Oh,
I thought
that's
it
what
was
you
like
heard.
An air
Oh,
thing.
okay.
You know what I'm saying? But nah, I thought you just put it in there fast and some air.
Oh,
Shot back out.
swole. Give me a couple months. I'm coming here looking like, I don't know, somebody.
Great job.
You said we had a topic today.
Yeah.
Are you going to get to it?
Well, I feel like I should introduce the topic after intros.
Oh, yeah,
is it about the intro?
Sure.
Okay.
Why
Hello. This is the YSO Podcast. It's a podcast for the youth, by the youth, being a voice of the youth, by being a voice to the youth. My name changes depending on the scenario. At birth, I was Emmanuel. Many know me as Saint Eva. But for the next, however long this episode is, you can just call me Godspeed.
My name is Vegeta, the Prince of the Saints.
I feel like he has.
I have?
Which is weird, because why would you be Vegeta twice?
Really? I've been Vegeta before?
I
Yes,
think
so.
so, yeah.
Well, then I'll be Piccolo.
Piccolo.
It is
The
Black
only
History
black
Month.
person. The only black person on Dragon Ball Z.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. It's Ashton.
What's going on, man? It's been nice to drink this week.
Word. And So the topic for this episode is a revisiting and expansion of a topic we talked about a few years ago. I don't even remember who all was in the episode, but my mother, who, you know, is the visionary behind our podcast, get well soon. She just has a really bad migraine, so she's not in studio with us today. She really wanted us to revisit this topic, and it actually feels very apropos to revisit it like now, because there's just a lot of things happening within like the culture and pop culture in regards to this, and so it's us revisiting youth in the church and our generation's kind of relationship with the church and I guess religion at large. And I have a few, you know, situations or jumpstart topics or questions, but before I really wanted to get into any of our personal viewpoints about the issue at large, have any of y'all seen the recent controversy surrounding Galvi? Galvi?
Uh-oh.
Jesus Christ, that sounded bad.
Who's that?
So Galvi is a hip hop artist. If you were to go to your Spotify or Apple Music or whatever and search up GAW, probably by the W, he'd be the first artist to come up. He's really well known within the Christian hip hop scene.
What'd he do?
He runs around in the circles and tiers of a Lecrae or a Andy Mineo, etc., etc. It has come out recently. There has been claims alleged against him that while married, he was sending unsolicited, explicit pictures of himself to many women.
He looked like the type.
Alrighty.
As I glanced over, it was a picture that did kind of look like somebody.
That's crazy. His record label,
for that.
the record label he was signed to, Reach Records. Anthony Davis is not a controversial omission of the All-Star game. He has not been playing that All-Star
That man ain't got no Instagram photos.
Who, Galvi?
Yeah. That's what happens when you got a scandal and you gotta lay low. Your publicist tell you delete everything.
Yeah,
Or they just delete everything themselves.
I wonder if there's any validity to the statements that these people are making.
Well,
Are there receipts?
apparently there are receipts galore.
Oh, brother,
now
you messed up.
They haven't been put out, but so I've seen many things, right? Because this coming out led to another greater conversation, which is kind of the one I want to get to. I mean, of course, highlighting the Gavi situation is important, but the greater conversations I saw taking place on Twitter were kind of like what intrigued me, and I wanted us to kind of give our thoughts and opinions on. But the woman who I saw kind of driving the conversation or expose, if you will, is someone who's had a very personal and professional relationship with Gavi in the past. One of his album covers she did, she knows him pretty well. And apparently these claims have in private been lauded and being made for the better part of the last year.
Well, that's normally what happens. When things like this happen behind the scenes, we don't hear about it until it's already,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And so she, apparently, this woman, I wish I would have
he was sending her
screenshotted. No, but I wish I would have screenshotted her Twitter name so I could say it, but I don't remember. She apparently has a host of evidence at her bevy, including quite literally multiple gratuitous pictures that Gavi has sent unsolicitedly to women. And she has basically stated that if Gavi tries to even claim it's not true, she was just going to leak the pictures.
It's not godlike.
Which is kind of what led to
about him or her?
Both of them.
Both.
That
Well, yeah, but
that led to that kind of coming up as a greater conversation. But one thing that kind of another just development, his record label Reach Records dropped him basically immediately.
Yeah, because they can.
you
Yeah,
can twist this.
I feel like they wait till we start recording and start making
It's
It'd
pretty
be
tight.
so quiet.
It is.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Nah, it's just this one
I was
because that
hoping
one's.
nobody
yeah.
heard.
yeah. I heard it too, but I was going to ignore it. Yeah, it's pretty tight.
God forgives.
Maybe it's. I don't know because mine is lucky just as far. I don't know why they don't be staying up most of the time.
But yeah, so there's now these greater conversations being had about Christian hip hop but also like just Christian celebrities, if you will.
I don't trust him.
On one end, you know, there are people who are vilifying him. There are, on the other hand, people who are, you know, talking about how we as Christians have to show, you know, grace and this should have been handled privately and XYZ, a whole lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole lot of conversations that are being had all at once. Appropriate conversations to be had, but I think they're conversations that unfortunately are only ever had when an instance comes up, and that's not really the right time to have them because it takes away from the actual
And then
situation.
this probably wouldn't even be a thing if he weren't a gospel hip hop artist.
I think it would now. I don't think maybe a few years ago it would only be because he was gospel and he was married.
Yeah.
But I think now, like, if somebody was to say that, I'm just gonna choose a random person. If somebody was like, Pitbull sends unsolicited pictures of his penis, people would still be in a pretty big uproar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
Like,
there's claim that Garvey like had made attempts to like hook up with a young lady who was underage, but then apparently when he found out she was underage, he stopped trying. So I guess like I don't know how much credence you could put into like his character being called into question for that if
At
he
least he stopped trying.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, well, if he just assumed she was of age, found out she wasn't of age and stopped, then
Yes, yeah.
I don't. But nevertheless.
Yeah.
That's one claim of the story. Another claim of the story is that he always knew she was underage, but like once she said it, that's when he stopped, which is a different conversation. But how
That's
are we
hard
gonna
to
know
prove.
exactly how are we gonna know that particular context unless someone else can explicitly state,
Right.
yeah, I told him that she was whatever age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said, there's a lot of things going on when it comes to it. I think the number one thing that I kind of wanted to jump off the porch and us like talking about, regardless of the Gavi situation, I think all of us, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I think nobody would be like, yeah, I mean, who cares that he was just sending his wang to women without their permit? Like, that's messed up. And I don't think there's any, even if he was single and not a gospel crit, like any human sending unsolicited explicit pictures of themselves.
why do men do that?
Oh, because they think it's cute. They think that it's on.
I think the real reason is because, generally speaking, men don't have to, they do have to as far as character, but like in the diaspora of life, men don't have to or are not trained to respect consent. So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like, I want to show you my penis and that's all that matters. So
Mhm.
I'm going to do that. It's a weird thing
It is
Very.
a weird thing.
to just
Very.
desire to do, especially if that's not an established rapport.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
Like
It's,
Even if it was,
it's
I
one
mean,
thing
yeah.
if you're like with someone or you talk to someone and that maybe be a thing and you did it in the vein of trying to surprise them and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
don't send those unless I ask for them. It's like, oh, okay, might be,
Okay.
but that's different. You're just jumping off the porch. I mean,
First
you go in
conversation.
any
Yeah.
bad or fine woman's Instagram or Twitter DMs and there's just gonna be strangers' penises like for no
Yes.
reason.
You have to have a minimum.
All they have to do is be
Weird.
attractive.
Yes, like no.
And not even like really attractive. Like I know some girls that I'd be like, but like,
How are you getting?
like,
Stop.
but it's like it's not really about that as much as it's about like once again like men just not
Yeah.
having to or not choosing not to respect consent. So it's just like I want to say, and it don't. You would think that also like the confidence that it would take or the hubris that you at least would see like. No homo, but like really huge penises all the time. But it
It's
don't
not-
be
it's
that.
the ones with
It,
nothing.
yeah, it'd be like a dude sending you his
With nothing.
medically
Yes.
cleared micro penis.
Crazy
Like, why? Are you,
statement.
that's not even. That's not.
Yes.
That's supposed to get her soilly and moist.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird choice of action. But
When I found out that was happening, like
Oh my god.
I genuinely just could not understand. You know how like there's some things that people do that you would just never be able to understand, and you're just not that type of person. It's just there's not a thought in my head that like say, yo, I need to show her,
Right.
and then actually go through with it. Like
not yet. That's bonkers.
that takes a long time. That takes a long line of thinking and prepping and doing.
I've
You
always.
wasted a lot of energy to get that.
I've
done.
always thought about things
Unless
like
you send
that.
the same one over and over. Now you're a menace.
I mean, they're both menaces.
Yeah,
That
nah.
one's he's a prepared menace.
Yeah.
That's like the difference between like someone like murdering someone spontaneously and someone who always has their murder supplies in their trunk, because they just never know like, oh man, I want to murder her now, and
Yeah.
You're already equipped. You don't have to improvise. Like, you're both sick, but one of you's a little
Yeah.
you're a little too equipped for this job.
Yeah.
But with that being said, this conversation, a greater conversation that's being brought up, has been about when controversies of this kind of nature are occurring within the Christian community, both with celebrities and non-celebrities. What is the Christian or godlike way of handling them? Because a lot of people are just like, this being made a public thing is a problem, or this attempt to rake him over the coals and vilify him and cancel him is an issue, and where is the grace and the this and the that and the XYZ. And there's lots of sides to be taken. I have a side that I lean towards, but I just wanted to know, like, where do y'all stand on anything of this nature, not just the like.
Well, they tried to cancel Kirk Franklin. That didn't work.
For what?
What the argument
Because
about
that's
him with his son?
Cursing at his son.
Oh,
Right.
but that's
That's
much
a
less
30-year-old
controversial
man.
than this.
Right, but
Much less controversial.
I
That
feel
was
like-
a father talking to his son. That wasn't Kirk Franklin talking
His
to
son
his
was
son.
off the porch.
Yeah.
and off
Right,
the hinges too.
yes.
Yeah,
He needed to be cursed
Yeah, I
out.
was about to say,
Yeah.
he warranted the whole
Yeah.
situation. And I mean, I don't think people know that, Kirk is from Dallas, Texas. This man ain't really just from, from
yeah,
birth.
I
man.
feel like
He's
in these type of situations, like, there are so many hypocritical, like, the church is full of hypocrites.
Facts.
Full of hypocrites. And I feel like they are always waiting just to point the finger at somebody to point out their flaws and their shortcomings.
Well, I think the ones vilifying them are the non-Christians, right?
No, there are Christians who
I mean,
very few non-Christians know who he is.
Okay,
It's a mainly
yeah.
Christian.
I'm a Christian. I ain't know who he was.
It's a mainly Christian
He
conversation.
must
we
not have
have.
been out there like that. Shoot, I just found out who Ovi was the end of last year. That boy can rap, by the way. But anyway, yeah, I just feel like there's always those Christians who are waiting to point the finger at somebody. Should he have been doing that? No. First of all, you're married and you sing about. Rap about. Besides the fact that
First
you
of all,
are
they're generous, sir.
a gospel artist, why are you sending your penis to women? You are married, sir.
But
That's
apparently, it's a lot.
a lot of
Like,
women.
not even
Like,
I shouldn't be laughing, but
Seek
the
help.
woman saying these stuff.
Like, they, like, the woman was saying, like, it's like
many
she
women.
didn't say this, but like
What?
he's putting up numbers. Like, it's a lot of women.
I'm trying to figure out, is he
That's not a
sliding in
good
these
thing.
women's DM?
Probably, yeah.
Like, bro, you need help.
Some of it's DMs, some of it's
Yeah.
probably people he knows personally through like
You
text
need help.
messages and
Like,
things
for
of
real,
that
for
nature.
like, no joke.
You need
like,
no
No judgment for
help.
me, because by no means am I perfect. I was one of those hypocritical Christians, but I put all that behind me because Jesus saves. But anyway, I mean, I really have no room to judge, because who am I to judge you when I've done things and yeah. But anyway, so my stance on it is, should he have done it? No. The criticisms are warranted, but he will not be getting them from me. I feel like, grace. That's the good thing about, not to get too holy or anything, but that's just the good thing about the God that we serve. Like, he sent his son to die for these type of things, and you can't out-sin the cross. You know what I mean? So, like, the things that he's done, the things that we've done, we confess to our sins, we'll be saved. So, yeah.
I mean, that's what I gotta repent. You can't just confess on it. But I get what you're saying.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, man. So when situations like this happen, usually it's somebody who's not claiming to follow God, so I usually don't care. But now, with the fact that he is, very well known in the Christian rap scene, I guess, that does add a different scope onto it. Yeah, because you're supposed to be living up to a certain standard, this, that, and the third, based on what the word says. And usually when stuff like this happens, I just gotta remember what I read. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, he does give warnings about stuff, you know what I'm saying? What's done in the dark is gonna come to the light. And especially if you do it so, I don't want to say magnanimous, but like, you know, so often, you know, in a repeat fashion, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you're showing any remorse or like, oh, I have to stop doing this. If you're putting a number, it's like Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon talked about he realized he was wild and after his 8th child is being revealed. Like, bro, not your 3rd baby mama, and maybe your 2nd. Like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes dudes be like, yo, I'm wilding with these 2, and I'm stopping. But no, you you sat up on a radio show and told us it was a white people idea to be monogamous, which makes no sense, like at all.
Would this guy be considered a false prophet?
Who? No, not unless he's prophesying.
Yeah, I think that's that would require information I don't have. I only heard so many of his songs, and I just don't know what he claims to be.
Classification of a false prophet is somebody who prophesies and
yeah.
in the past.
You asking that does lead to another greater conversation that was being had, which is, I guess, like, how much responsibility do Christian artists...
Well, we can get to that. I'm sorry. I should have waited till they finished, but it just came to my mind.
I don't even know what I was saying.
Well, I was going to let you tell your opinion. Andrew was finishing his.
Oh, yeah.
Really, to cut it short, of course, you got issues, bro. I don't even know who you are, but that is an issue because
seek help.
You can't, you know.
Oh my God!
What is occurring?
You heard that? Sorry, but basically, you know, one of the fruits of the spirit is self-control, and if you can't control yourself enough to not send other people your genitalia, that is a problem. Especially multiple people in a
and there's multiple stopping points. You have a few times to think about this over again.
Yeah, you make a
like,
lot of
conscious choices. Did you think you was not gonna get caught, my guy? Like, did you just think I could do this forever?
Or more, he didn't.
And nobody's gonna say anything. Probably not.
There's a lot of operating.
I mean, R. Kelly felt like that.
I wonder if his
felt like
wife's
that
gonna
at one
stay
point.
with him. What you think?
I don't think he's with his wife anymore. I just think this was while he was married.
Okay.
Because everybody, like, the way the tweets were worded, it was like while married, and like, or while he was married, and it just like made it seem like maybe he wasn't married anymore.
Or maybe they're assuming.
Could be.
These people just
look closely at this. Ashton, what's your opinion?
It was trending just a few days ago.
To be honest, I don't care. Like, I think it's awful, but like when something that happens, I'm like, this ain't my business. Like, whatever's gonna happen to him is gonna happen to him. I don't have enough energy to be like, oh, I'm gonna sit here and judge him, and that's so awful. Like, you suck. Like, you're stupid. But
bad person.
It's not for me to put all of my energy into. Jesus gonna fix it. Whatever.
Also, like, I don't really know how it should be handled. I feel like if it's being handled this way, then it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because that's your fault, bro.
Yeah.
You reap what you sow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you put that out there into the world, and that's what came back to you. So,
is it bad that I'm happy he's not? Is he African American?
Definitely is.
He looks like he's mixed with black, but his
he's
hair
from the Bronx. He's
his hair
definitely
texture
black.
is like.
There's other people in the Bronx, but
There are.
And he born September 23rd.
Isn't that his birthday?
Yeah.
I think towards the conversation of how these things should be handled, I don't necessarily have an answer to that either, but I do feel like everyone who's just
Father
like
from El Salvador, mother from Dominican Republic. Let's go.
yeah, he can still be black.
I know black. It's not the same. Not the same, papi.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have like this is how these things should be handled, but I do think that the argument that because
he low-key looked like Drew from Power on the lowest of keys. If you like
That'd be you gotta do it that fast.
What?
You don't look like it.
come on.
I'm dead.
I love y'all.
I don't even remember what I was saying.
You don't have an opinion on how these things should be handled. Like, you don't have an answer.
Oh yeah, I think all of the people who are like because he is Christian and we are Christians, this should be handled privately. Like that's how things should go.
Jesus was
that's
publicly
wrong.
murdered. What are we talking about?
I just think that's incorrect. and I understand, like, kind of to speak to Christians' point, like the grace that should be extended. But I do believe there's a thing that's too much grace, and I think that people in the church kind of expect an unlimited amount of grace, and whereas God can extend that, and whereas we should try to be Christ-like, I think that an unlimited amount of grace opens the door for someone to just continue to harm people and be a repeat offender.
Yeah.
I think as someone who has been close to certain situations within very much like a church home and family where grace was extended so much that it just led to more pain,
Right.
we have to, as Christians, create some barrier or threshold where we stop extending the grace of God and start making someone take some responsibility.
Well, absolutely.
And people being like, this should be handled privately, or turn other cheeks, blind eye, all of that stuff, simply because we are Christians, simply because, like, that, especially when you have someone who, like, I can't make any claims of knowing how this man claims to live his life, right? For all I know, he can be one of those people, one of those Christian artists who very much, like, is upfront about him being a flawed Christian or a flawed human being in the way an artist like Lecrae has, right? Like, where Lecrae has been open about, like, I've had shortcomings in this part of my character or faith or XYZ. I don't know, because I don't listen to enough of his music, and I've never watched an interview, read a tweet. I don't know much about him. But what I do know is that...
I know who he was.
But what I do know is that...
No.
Oh.
Garvey.
What I do know is that being a Christian artist in the limelight, or being a Christian artist to the world, right? Does that mean that you're expected or held to a level of perfection? No. But at the very least, I can hold you responsible for where you fall short of the Lord's will. Whereas that's not something I can want responsibility of others. I can't go. I can choose, right?
How do those go? I'm sorry,
I don't know.
to cut you off, but like I just realized we were going for like 20-something minutes. So.
Yeah, I don't know how long they're set
30
for.
minutes.
Okay. I can't. You know, I can choose, right? Like to be like, oh, The Weeknd doesn't uphold Christ-like values in his music and his life, so I don't want to listen to him. That's a personal choice, but I can't be like, I can't hold him responsible to that. Because when has The Weeknd ever been like, and Jesus is my homeboy? Not once, right? But you know what I mean? Being a gospel artist and living you know.
Did you like his album?
I love his album. I'm assuming you mean The Weeknd, not Garvey. I've never heard his album. Yeah, I love The Weeknd.
Ain't nobody playing Garvey in these. What Gucci said? Y'all listen to him?
Well, somebody listening to
You
Garvey.
sliding around, you your old lady.
You and your old lady listening to
Really
Garvey?
quick,
Bumping Eminem.
that video is funny, but I do hate this. This is a
I listen
complete.
to Eminem.
This is a
More
complete
than I
aside.
listen to Gucci. If I'm gonna keep it 100.
I don't listen to either of them
I
too
love
often,
Gucci.
but I guess in total in my life I've listened to more Eminem than
I'm
Gucci.
definitely listening to more Gucci.
I hate this, and this is like a thing that like I feel like our generation has started, and now it's like a thing. I hate this. The only music you can listen to or be a fan of must be allowed to be able to be played in front of women. Like, have you like like people will be like, you listening to you listening to let me think of a really good example. It's gonna be like, all right, like this is someone who I like G-Eazy's music, and people have like criticized me for liking G-Eazy's music. I'll be like, I like his music, right? But someone will be like, you like G-Eazy? I'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, you listen to G-Eazy with the hose around. When y'all like the funk, and it's like that is the argument as to why someone is whack a lot of times. I'll be like, and so like that Gucci quote just always reminds me, like, you sliding around, you and your old lady listening, and I'm like, no, but sometimes I'm by myself. Sometimes I want to hear this type of vibe or that type of vibe. Sometimes the people in my car are subjected to what I want to hear today, and I'm not putting on the vibes for all of us to jam. I'm jamming out, and you can choose to enjoy, or you can put some headphones on to go to sleep.
I was listening to the gospel music when Andrew got in the car. I had to switch the song.
Yo, he just. I didn't ask him.
Well, I didn't like.
Wait.
I said like like Andrew anti-gospel.
Right.
Why is this home?
No.
He just chose to.
Yeah, I just chose to switch the song.
Somebody else probably should have came and did this. You hit the red button.
That was funny. movement back there.
That was funny.
Man, they got no posts. I really wanted to see what his thing looked like before he deleted all his posts.
I don't care. That man is. His name is Gavi.
God.
Come on, chill on him. That could be his government name for all we
Could
know.
be.
I wonder who he followed.
I mean, don't chill on him as like a human, but like his name not his responsibility.
He sounds like somebody from Boston saying the last name of Marcus Garvey.
That's
Gavi.
such a specific joke.
It reminds me of when in Two Guns when Denzel was like Horby.
I've not seen that movie enough to know what moment that is in the movie.
For that shows you how many times I've seen the movie.
Two Guns is a movie I always forget about when bringing up Denzel's filmography, but I always remember when bringing up Mark Wahlberg's filmography.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? I forgot what movie I was trying to watch, but I was on the Fire Stick and I clicked on one of the links and I watched 15 minutes of Denzel negotiating with terrorists on a bus. And I don't even remember I don't know
Was it
what
a bus
movie
or a
it was.
train?
It was a bus. It was definitely a bus. I know that movie that you're talking about.
The
Okay.
Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
I love that
but it's
movie.
not.
That's a really
Yeah,
good
John
that
Travolta
movie was
started
great.
in that movie.
It was
Yes.
great, but
Oh, but
it wasn't that. I can't even remember because I realized I was
What
just like,
age
what movie is
range
this?
was he?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
20s or 30s,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to remember who else was in the movie.
I don't know.
Forrest Whitaker, I think. No,
Forrest Whitaker.
was he? I can't remember, bro. He was a police officer. A bus blew up, and then there was a second bus, and he got those people off.
Hmm.
Deja vu?
Can't be.
The Siege.
Siege. It was
Oh,
that.
I've never seen that.
But I didn't know that that's what it was because I was trying to watch something
What the
else.
heck is that?
The Siege?
Yeah.
Came out in 1988?
Yeah,
Developer
that's
aims to
exactly
build
why.
1998.
logistics
I was like, dang, that didn't even seem like it.
1998. After terrorists attack a bus in Brooklyn, a Broadway theater, and FBI headquarters, FBI anti-terrorism expert Anthony Hubbard, Denzel Washington,
Yep.
teams up with CIA agent Elise Kraft and Annette Bening to
Yep.
investigate. Soon, martial law is declared in New York City, and General William Devereaux, Bruce Willis, a sadistic
That's what it was.
racist,
I didn't want to say Bruce Willis, but I was like, why is he in my head? He was in that movie.
a
Okay.
sadistic racist, is put in command. When Devereaux begins rounding up Arab Americans and forcing them into a detention camp, Hubbard and Kraft must
Yeah,
fight
that's a
back
lot
in the
going
name
on.
of
Yeah, I
freedom.
didn't watch all that. I just
Oh
watched
my
the
God.
first 15.
Well, yeah, clearly, if you only watch the first 15, you ain't gonna see it all.
I didn't even know all that was happening. At the beginning of the movie, Bruce Willis killed some dude in somewhere in the Middle East.
Shoot.
There was goats and stuff.
Well, they said he's
Same.
an epic racist. Or a sadistic racist, really.
Yeah, and he was interrogating somebody and killed somebody.
Hour 56 minutes.
You know what's funny? Looking at the bottom, there's like, sorry y'all, my laptop is right there showing us the clocks because his mother is not in attendance, so we're, keeping up with the time ourselves. But there's ads that, are personalized to you, all of us, because, Google give our information to all the algorithms and everybody else. So these things at the bottom, I have like 4 of them.
Oh, like the things that are being advertised.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's funny.
Yeah, that one. And I can't tell which bundle that is, but I think I have that specific bundle.
Back to the topics at hand. Another conversation that's being had is like Christian celebrities or figures, public figures, how much responsibility does their like personal life kind of like, how much of their personal life are they like responsible for when it comes to us and our knowledge of things, right? Because everybody sins, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, where do we get to determine as Christians or as consumers of whatever their thing is, whether it's entertainment, whether it's being a pastor yourself and you become a famous pastor, whatever it is, do we get to, I guess, criticize or like hold into this light, right? Because like say we like found out that like, I'm trying to think. Let's say we found out Devon Franklin gambles. Not that he's a gambling addict, just that he gambles.
Is gambling a sin?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Relying on it to like be your means of living.
That's like drinking isn't a sin, but drinking to get drunk is a sin.
Right.
Yeah,
But
so I
even-
think it's like the excessiveness of it.
Even also, isn't like not following the law a sin? And gambling is illegal.
Yeah,
So,
following the law of the land is one of
yeah. So Even if you want to.
Well, in some states it's legal.
Yeah, but.
So that's where like the intricate.
That's not how it works.
Is that considered semantics?
I mean, semantics.
If you were breaking the law while you
of,
did it, then it's against the law.
Oh.
So
yeah, so if you're breaking the law, then I don't think that's a part of the like 10 Commandments. I don't think that's like.
No, I'm saying like if gambling is legal and you gamble.
But it's only legal in certain contexts in certain locations. If you are not there in those contexts, it is illegal.
Right.
All gambling outside of those contexts is illegal.
Right. Exactly.
So, unless he's staying in Atlantic City or Vegas, or often, then if he's gambling with any frequency, right? And Devon Franklin, to my knowledge, doesn't gamble. I don't know anything about his personal life other than now he's going through a divorce. All power to him. But just to say we were to find that out, right? Like, is that something that we as a Christian community and as people who like consume and observe these Christian public figures can laud at and vilify someone over? Or like what level of, someone's personal life or what within someone's personal life as a human being is owed to us when it comes to their responsibility as a Christian public figure?
That's tough. That's very tough because, I do agree that like us, we shouldn't be.
We aren't owed. But
But then say that's a light
that
example. Then take it to another extreme, like say like a pastor or a gospel artist or whatever.
Like a T.D. Jakes or Mary Mary.
Yeah, it's like doing like.
Coke.
I wasn't even gonna say Coke. Like an Eddie Long situation. Like
You said T.D. Jakes. Don't you T.D. Jakes?
I was just saying somebody along like I thought he was going like big.
I was trying to think of a big person, and I was trying to think of an extreme thing on the other end, right? Because most of us would probably be like, who cares if you gamble? I just bet somebody on the Rams game last week, right?
Yeah.
But then, let's view another extreme, right? Because if you say none of it's owed, right? Then ideally that's your stance under any circumstance, and then a situation like an Eddie Long situation, if that comes up, then it's like, what level of personal responsibility is owed there? Because what he was doing was bad regardless, but it's also extra bad because you're a pastor. Oh, and yeah, that too. All of the fact that so many details, so much minutia, right? And so where, I guess, and it's impossible to draw, I think, a solid one, but I think the ideal was a lot of people are arguing Christian hip-hop artists like do not claim to be X, Y, Z or whatever. They are just people who make a certain genre of music.
Yeah.
That's not true.
But then that's people making that argument. It's people making the that's not true argument, and they, as Christian hip hop artists under that branding and under that umbrella, do have a certain responsibility to walk in a certain path in light. And so then it's like, well,
as soon as you put that label of Christian on before whatever comes after it, you are responsible. You are held to that standard to me as maybe a pastor or anybody else that is in that light. You're held to that same standard because you put that label on yourself. We ain't put that label on you. We ain't call you a gospel artist. You called yourself that. Mm-hmm. So you would have to live your life according to the word of God, who you are rapping and ministering about. So you can't call yourself a Christian artist and then turn around and be upset when things that you do that are not in line with the Christian faith comes to light.
But then what if it's just
like... You could be upset, but
I mean, you could be upset, but you did it to yourself.
True.
You were sinning. Never mind.
And so, do you feel that is the case for all sin?
Absolutely.
No sin, some
God
sin.
views. See, this is what's wrong with the older generation. They put so much emphasis on homosexuality, fornication, premarital sex. That's fornication. Babies out of wedlock, drugs. Like, they put those sins on a pedestal where God sees sin. Like, if you're looking at a bar graph from the top, He sees it like that. Mm-hmm. If you're a killer, if you're a thief, if you're a fornicator, it doesn't matter what kind of sin you do. God sees it the same. So it's like, to me, it doesn't matter what sin you commit. Sin is sin.
But there are special places in hell for people who commit certain sins. Don't forget that. It's because certain acts incur certain things that we can't see in the spirit world.
So that's why when they be like, there's a special place in hell for you, that's what they mean.
Yeah. Not if you just a bad
I'm using that term lightly.
No. I mean, I don't have a heaven nor a
Somebody
hell to
give
put
you props,
anybody in, nor am I
man.
judging anybody for, their shortcomings because I
Yeah, I
have
can't
shortcomings myself.
condemn anybody
I've had
to go
premarital
over
sex,
down.
I was into pornography, all that good stuff. That's my testimony. I've turned my life around, alright? God is trying to do a new thing within me.
Why do you say all that good stuff?
All that good stuff. Well, that's not good stuff. You're right. All that
I
ungodly
think he
stuff.
was saying, I've turned around and that's
Yeah.
all the good stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't have we don't have no authority to condemn anybody
None.
up or down.
If I
But
did,
we also do have
Boy.
yeah, it's roasts for the whole nation, man. It's like my
But-
mom and my nieces and nephews in heaven, and the rest of us, bad zone.
That is funny.
oh, what was I saying?
But yeah, we don't have a heaven or hell to put nobody in.
But in the same breath, we do have the ability to judge people based on their fruits. And if you out here producing bad fruit, then you're a bad tree. You know what I'm saying? And that just is what it is. So, no, I can't say you going to hell for what you did because I have done something, and the wages of sin is death, period. You know what I'm saying?
But thank God Jesus died for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the good thing about it. You know what I'm saying? But if you out here habitually like
Sinning.
just
Yeah.
doing stuff and have no intention of, changing, then, there's a problem.
Seek help.
That's
So what if,
like- I'm sorry.
what if I don't know, like they lie every Tuesday. And like that's the only thing they do, but like every
That's
Tuesday,
one of my
Well,
issues.
even if it's something as small as that,
Lie.
for us, we won't ever know that. But
what if that comes out right? Like headline, blah blah blah, lies every Tuesday.
every
Now
what is he lying
Christians
about?
are trying to laud like
Does that
a
matter?
level of-
If it-
I don't think that matters.
I mean, yes,
No,
because
it
the
doesn't.
scale of a lie. No. I'm talking about when it comes to us.
Oh.
The scale of a lie can be very, very, like if you lie to somebody like if you're a woman and you lie to somebody and say this baby is yours knowing it's not, or if you have a child and you're just like, yeah, I ordered you some shoes last week, but you forgot to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Is that a lie?
the implicate, yes.
Oh.
if you say you did it, then you didn't do it.
Yeah. That's a lie, you know what I'm
I
saying?
thought you
Like,
meant
I think there's a lot of
You
small
meant to
things
order
that
it.
like are lies that like
yeah.
people don't even like a lot
Yeah.
of one lie I really struggle with is like someone will text me and then like if it's like someone who's like the conversation I don't have much like urgency behind the conversation,
Yeah.
I'll like think of a reply but maybe not send it immediately, and then it's like 2 days later, and so then I hate being the person who just like acts like nothing happened, and I hate when people do that to me. So then I'll like say something. I'll be like, man, I've been so busy these last 2 days. No, I haven't. I just been saying that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And like that's a lie, right?
Yeah.
But like
but that's like,
I'm not viewing that
I be
as
having
like
to repent
Yeah.
every
saying
day,
some
'cause
sick
I
wicked
lie.
thing.
Yeah.
You ask me a question and I'll start telling a lie before I can even think of telling you the truth. Like it is so bad. It is so bad. Like what
It
you
depends
doing?
on
I was at that level like at 16. I'm at a different level
What?
now.
Like
Yeah,
this is
nah, I ain't
terrible.
gonna lie.
My line is so layered
It's
and
terrible.
complex.
Like why am I like? And then after the lie, I'm like, why did I just say
Right.
that? Why did I just lie to you?
Now, you know what my problem is? I have road rage. Every day.
Oh yeah, you posted that on your
Yeah.
story.
I am repenting for, like today, oh my gosh. Okay, today I was coming home. And
This man got passenger seat road rage too. Like we driving to Quanah House for the podcast, and he just yelling at the cars, and I'm like, well, damn,
Bro, it's slow,
Like,
bro.
I'm fine. I'm going
Fast,
fast.
slow. Bro was going across
he
the
told
thing,
some
man.
go.
I'm for real, bro. Every day I'm like, at the end of it, I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord, forgive me. Alright, I didn't mean it. I know they probably got stuff going on today. But like,
Oh man.
man, I'm sorry. It just be coming out of me, and I just be like, dang. I catch myself after, but today, like, and it's usually like there's a very good spectrum of stuff. And today was raining, so I wasn't like really faulting nobody.
So raindrops and people forget how to drive.
Man, especially all here, everybody's license knowledge just goes away. But I'm turning right out of the parking lot. This didn't happen today. Something else happened today. But I feel like that y'all gonna look at me crazy about that. So I'm gonna go with one that's actually justified.
This man's a villain.
Okay, so so I'm coming home from work, right? I work at GGC, Georgia Gwinnett College, and there's a parking lot that's in the warehouse not in the warehouse, but the parking lot to the warehouse is on the left side of the road if you're going towards the school. And there's a neighborhood immediately on the other side, and then this is Collins Hill Road or whatever. I'm turning right out of the parking lot, to merge to go back towards Lawrenceville in my home. And there's a lady turning left coming out of the neighborhood that's across the street. And there's only 3 lanes because there's 2 over here. No, there's 2 lanes because it merges right before that moment. So there's 2 lanes, one going that way, one going that way. So you gotta cross 2 lanes. You gotta cross a lane to get for her to merge. And she's turning left, so we're going in the same direction because I'm turning right. I'm waiting, you know what I'm saying, looking down, there's cars coming, I'm waiting, I see a space. So I start to go. She pulls in front of me. And that part didn't make me mad because I just stopped. I figured I'm mad alert now, I'm way alert now than when I was before because I'm not losing this car this time. So I'm mad alert. Plus I'm playing my own insurance right now, so none of that going. So I just stopped defensive driving. I'm looking at her. And she's like, I see her yelling at her car, I have the right of way. Of course, it's a white lady.
You literally don't.
You literally don't. In Georgia, if you would have hit me, that would have been your fault.
If you were making a left turn, you can never claim right of way.
Never.
Unless you have a left arrow
Exactly.
telling you you can
merging,
go.
and there's no light right here. This is just waiting, you know what I'm saying, timing. And so she's yelling at me, and I just like, once I see her mouth moving and her pointing at herself, I'm like, hey, yo, what are you talking about? I pull up next to her, and I'm looking at her still yelling, and she just like keep looking at me back and forth and looking at the road because we at the red light now. And I'm mugging her. I'm like, yo, what is you yo, I know, like, I had to, when she made a left and got onto the highway. It's like a little loop that loops around, but she made that left and I kept going straight, and I was just talking for a minute, and I was just like, dang man, I need to, she had a car seat in the back, I don't think the baby was in the back, but I'm like, she got kids, she probably upset, you know what I'm saying, Lord forgive me, I'm sorry. But that one, that was, I was, she was hot.
I won't say I have road rage, but I will say that if you are a dangerous driver, you do something that is dangerous that can potentially put my health and safety in danger, I say things that, and like, I'm not even going to give an example. I say very bad things. Like
you wishing death on people?
I say very bad things. And in the moment, my brain's always like, they driving like that. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, my word, like, that's reaping so, like, they don't get it. But then I'm just like, after a while, I'll be like, that was kind of OD. But I never really, like, take it back. I just be like, forgive me for saying that, guys.
Yeah.
But I still be like,
it's out. I can't take it back.
And then sometimes, like, sometimes it'll be extreme. Like, I'll, like, say something, and then I'll be like, and I hope, I can't, because that's getting too close to saying the things I had one instance, someone in my neighborhood, like, this was, like, last week or the week before. My neighborhood, at all times, it's one lane, like, going that way, one lane going this way. And they are behind me. I'm driving over the speed limit. The speed limit in my neighborhood is a 35. Mm-hmm. And I'm near the school. There's a school in my neighborhood. It's an elementary school.
Oh,
and
you going down the hill? Or coming up? Like, are you
I'm leaving. So I'm going to the front of my neighborhood. Yeah. And I'm by the school. So when you're by the school, it's like 25.
Right.
I'm doing like 40. Still being safe or whatever, but that's just to show you I'm already doing the most low key.
Right.
There's a car behind me. They have been in the anus of my car from the moment they got behind me. I'm like, what, do you want to date? Like, what is going on? At some point, they decide to come from behind me, speed up, and go out in front of me. But they do it while there's a car coming. Now, they don't know there's a car coming because when they come out there, but then the car starts coming. And I have the decision to make. Oh, if I speed up, you have to get into an accident. Because you're either going to hit me coming back in or hit them head on. But then I was like, that person didn't do anything. Like the person coming the other way, they're just driving late, and to potentially put them in a head-on collision. So I kept going and I let them get in front of me. But then I said something, and then I said, and I hope it's on the news too, because I wanted confirmation of that what I said would come to pass. And then I was like, it took me till like, Christian, Andrew, you may have a better sense of this distance. It took me till I was on 285 to be like, like, I OD.
That's a while, bro.
Bro, it
That's
took
a
me
while.
a minute.
That's
So I
at
was
least
like-
2.5 songs, bro.
I was like, I OD.
Oh my
And don't let it be a long gospel song.
And I said I low key OD too. That's what I was like.
Not
I
low key.
But I was just so. I was like, for what? Like you're not going nowhere important. Like, and that be the thing that be killing me. Like your life is like.
Bro, it don't matter
Yes,
what
hilarious.
building you're going to, it's
I
gonna
love
be there when you get
I
Exactly.
promise you.
Buildings don't move.
Arrive
You're the
alive.
one
I
moving.
promise you, it's gonna be there.
Arrive alive. Like if you late, you already late.
Come
Just
on, bro.
take your time.
I'm always like, yo, I'd rather get there.
Exactly.
That's my priority. Like,
Yeah.
bump with time, I'd rather get there. Y'all be playing with y'all lives out here. I can't do it. And I have such like high awareness of just how deadly an activity driving is. I always had, even before I started driving. And I hate how cavalier people treat it. Like,
Yeah.
motor vehicle accidents are the leading cause of death in America. You take every statistic and every disease,
fentanyl
this, that.
coming in the smallest. People is ODing on
It's
No,
That is true. People are ODing on
It's-
fent a lot.
it's
It's
terrible.
Fent
going
is way
wild
too
right
strong.
now.
Yeah.
It's looking like room euphoria.
And it's like, why do
They be
you...
looking worse
My
than me.
question is, like, the people who, like, lace stuff with fent,
They don't care about nobody.
how do you...
They don't care.
How are you not dead? There's a clip of a cop
They don't
dying after catching a whiff of it. Not even, like, coming in contact with it. It was, like, in a package.
Yeah.
And somehow,
Is it
some
a
way,
liquid?
he just started
It
convulsing.
can be in many forms. It could be
so
powder,
it's like
it can be
heroin.
liquid, yeah. And
That's crazy.
it's really strong. I think it's.
Because it's like synthetic morphine, right? Or something like that?
I actually don't know
I don't know
what
what
it
it
is.
is.
I know it's a
Where the heck
synthetic.
Isn't it
replicate
approved
of
by the
something.
FDA?
No.
Fentanyl?
No.
I don't know. I don't know that much. I won't say no. I won't say yes. I think it'd be wild if it was, but a lot of wild things are approved by the FDA under certain
You're right.
contexts.
I have no idea, actually.
Essentially, heroin is approved by the FDA. They just change the name and call it something else.
Yep.
There you go. Off the heroin, but no.
Kirk,
yeah,
why you got this mask on?
fentanyl.
Let's put this
Let's
back
put
on.
But no, yeah, I have such high awareness. Just like driving is such. We are literally every time we get into a car, whether we are the driver, passenger, whatever, we're putting our lives on the line every single time, and people act like it's nothing. And I'm like, you really zooming around like you got 9 lives. Like you must know something I don't. Like you must have tapped in with some extra source, and you got some lives to spare. Cause I only got 1 life to live, and therefore 1 life to lose. And y'all be driving like y'all do not care. I just don't understand it. I do not understand it.
It's them people that just got their license without having to take the test or take driver's ed or anything, bro. I'm telling you.
Man, this people been driving terribly for a long time.
Yes, but then I feel like there's a lot more deadly crashes. Because I guarantee you, like, right after quarantine ended, that was the time where I started being stopped on the highway, stopped in random areas of Georgia because there was a really, really bad accident like 30 minutes prior to when I got to that position.
Yeah, I've seen really bad. I've seen a car on fire on I think it was 285 coming back home from Kennesaw. It was in the dead of night. It's like 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm driving, and like this vehicle is
Engulfed.
literally from like maybe a few miles back. I'm seeing smoke, high clouds of black smoke, and I'm like, is there a fire? I got up to it. When I tell you, I'm like, unless this is one of those situations where people got out and it combusted a little bit after. If this was on impact, there is no way those people are alive or out of there. Like they are in cinders to the seats or the ash or whatever. But I was like, it was bad. It was probably, I've seen really bad accidents, and that was probably like the most harrowing thing I've seen on the road. I was just like, oh my god.
I saw an accident the other day leaving my boy Jar's crib. Coming down Hugh Howell, about to pass Decca and Stars and Strikes. That intersection. Somebody was going straight, somebody hit him right in the wheel.
Yeah.
The driver's side.
I
ain't gonna lie, I hopped out, and I went up to the dude who got hit just to see if he was alright. He was on the phone with his mom, and I guess his mom said, you should go to the hospital. He was like, I'm not going to the hospital. So I was just like, yeah, this thing's fine. And I looked at the other car, I was just like, yo, you good, dog? And he just like threw the thumbs up out the window.
Oh my god.
So I was just like, yeah,
They don't know yet. They got what's there. They're gonna come in.
yeah, I was just like, bro,
I know someone who got
they was breathing and was
they was able to
their motor skills was fine, so they wasn't dying. Cause that's the only way I'm calling the police.
I know.
Because at the time, still had my temporary tag, and it had expired that day. So
if you don't want me to call the cops, you better be deceased.
y'all better be
now.
because I couldn't call nobody because I was jammed up. So I'm holla at y'all, you feel?
That's hilarious.
I definitely parked on the side, turned my hazards on. I parked right in front of his car, so like people was already driving around, so it was cool. Hopped out, you know what I'm saying? Walked up, he was cool. Said what's up to the other dude, got the confirmation. I'm like, alright, well, out of here.
Car accident adrenaline is real too, because a homie of mine, he got into an accident and it like wasn't like that, like it was still, he could still use his car. So after exchanging information and all of that, he drove home. And then the next morning he said, man, he was like, bro, I had the most pounding headache. He was like, I couldn't even function. So it was like, alright, man, I'll go to the hospital, whatever. His mom took him to the hospital. He was like, yeah, you have like the highest grade concussion possible. They were like, the fact that you were able to drive yourself home and use motor skills for the rest of the day, went to sleep and didn't die in your sleep, all miracle. They were like, your brains, it went. Like he said, the doctor he was like, bro.
God.
He said the doctor was like, your brain went like a shake weight, like it just shook all over your skull. Like he was just like, he's fine now. This was a few months ago, but he was just like,
That's wild.
bro, I drove home right after.
Oh
He was
my
like,
God.
we exchanged information. The other dude was like, yeah, that's on me, my B, yada yada yada. The dude kind of wasn't upset because it was his baby mama's fault, and so like he like, yeah, you gonna pay for all of this. So they was real cool.
Oh, she was driving?
No, but she was the reason why. I think he didn't give me all the details, but I think it was some
Probably
dispute or something like that, and she was the reason why his attention was off, and he hit my homie. But my homie was like, yeah, he was like, bro, yeah, I have the worst concussion feasible.
Oh my God.
And he just felt fine. Went home.
Why do you think there's a lack of men in the church?
What you mean?
Is there a lack of men in the church?
Is there?
I think so.
Where?
Well, our church for one, but just church.
There's not a lack of men.
I do think there's a weird.
There's an overwhelming amount
ratio.
of women, but there's not a lack of men.
And I think you can say either one of those, and they could imply the other. Not
True.
directly, but
Well, let's just analyze it. We got one single man. We have the singles ministry is consisted of one man, and
true.
the
But
rest
there's
of them-
other single men.
True. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you right.
But
he's not
technically
into
not,
singles.
well,
they're
by
older than me.
Bible definition, you're saying.
Yeah, by Bible.
And I think that's what the ministry's for.
Yeah, and that's what I
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't really think it's like a thing of like there's men in the Loganville community like I'm just not gonna go to church. You
Well, a
know
lot
what I'm
of the people that go to our church don't even live in Loganville.
Yeah, the vast majority.
Really?
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, most people travel.
I mean, we live in Snellville, so
Yeah, we are.
I live in Stone Mountain.
Yeah. Shit.
well, y'all was living in
Yeah, no, I was just like, it was
West
like
Jablit.
far.
Not Rex, Georgia.
Was y'all on church?
Nah, they
Yeah,
they
we
was
were.
to the new house, the new joint.
Yeah, that was. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was even further.
I'm coming.
I don't know if I'd say there's a lack of men in the church at large, but I do feel like there's less men in the church now than probably as we were coming up.
Yeah.
And so I think it may feel like there's some kind of void because I still think clergy is pretty male dominated. In most black churches you go into, I think you'll
Yes,
find more.
but I also think that's probably for some underlying reason or something.
I agree that it's for some underlying reason, but I'm just saying that so I don't know if I could go as far as to say like there's a lack of or a void of men in church, but I do think that I don't know if I have necessarily a why, but I do think that this kind of, you asking that kind of leads to another point that I had, or a question that I had for us to lobby, and it's why church is so unappealing to our generation. Because I just think in general there are less people in church now than probably ever.
I don't really.
And I'm speaking specifically to black church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
white
white
church
millennials be flooding the church.
They
really do.
They really do.
Like Transformation Nation, Elevation, Victory in Tulsa,
Well, most
Victory
of
here.
those churches are like, you know, the multi. So
But even still,
Eight
the,
nations.
the majority of the congregation are millennial Caucasians.
yeah, I mean,
And sprinkling some
everybody
millennial.
can afford the membership.
That was funny. That was funny. That is actually funny.
Also,
That was funny.
But
I Hey, yo, I just found that out the other day, bro. That people are actually paid to go to some churches.
Yeah.
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 I just found that out today. That's a thing.
Yo, did almost happen, but it stopped?
Yeah.
Hey, that would have been.
That's
Boy,
why I'm sitting
we
here
have to
stretching.
be on the floor.
Yeah, I'm sitting here stretching, trying to, but
Because we wouldn't be
What?
able to do a thing.
Yeah.
that happens.
I'm really
I just,
It's like
I was
dues,
today
but
years
like
old.
you pay your dues like every month.
I mean,
or
Yeah, of course
whatever.
they spin it in a way that's like, oh,
Yeah.
I
it's all
thought,
nice.
you pay your tithes and
You know, yeah, you gotta pay those 2
Yeah, I was
times,
about to say, you
but
gotta
there's
you
also
on
dues
top of,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
on
to be
top
a
of your-
member.
it ain't no
Yeah.
pastor out there
$250
that's
for
fine
your
enough to
family.
make me pay to go to his church.
Man,
My
I
father's a pastor, and
Nah,
I
I
don't
read
even
the
pay
Bible.
him to go to his church.
I'll read Bible, watch YouTube videos before I pay to go to somebody's church.
Right.
I'll
Get in my prayer closet. God will
Mhm.
speak to me in there.
I'll record my own sermons.
What? What's going on?
I'm not paying to go
It's
to
done
church.
divulged into something
I
else.
love Jesus. You know I love you.
Now it's
But
prayer
you want me
closets
to
and
pay?
personal
Jesus
service.
was preaching a sermon on the mount for free. You know the one thing I don't like about the Bible, and we're gonna get back to the it's just how it jumps. Like in one chapter, Jesus is being born, and then the next one he's calling the disciples, and the next one he
Well, there's
casting out
books that were
demons and
taken
Sermon on
out,
the Mount.
so
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that are missing.
And also when you talk about like the what I call the homie books, which are Mark, Matthew,
Yes.
Luke, John, whatever. They're
I really knew what you were talking
they if you just really look at it, it's like we have to put the most important things, and
Yeah, there's some
Jesus' 16th birthday was not that lit.
Yeah,
so
there was some, there's
let's
some
get right to the
options.
heat.
Yeah,
I mean,
Jesus
they got
was
right-
30
Jesus
and we was
was
casting
born.
out demons every day.
Jesus was born. He got baptized by John the Baptist, and then he was preaching a sermon on
When
the
he
Mount.
was 12, he left his family.
Yep.
And they
Yeah.
found him again.
And the next
then
time we
after
saw him,
that,
he was 30 years old.
he was flipping chains.
Trapping himself, talking about, hey, I'm the way and the light. I'm only here for 3 more years. Get with the gang or get going.
Yo, I can really imagine how those people was like, yo, you know me, right? Like, I know your mom, bro. Like,
Son,
not.
I always have thought about,
Nah, I wouldn't
imagine
like
being one of Jesus' siblings and just being like, I know I'd be the one, I'd go to Joseph and be like, Dad.
Imagine
really
being
believe her, bro?
Joseph, bro. Like,
Oh,
But I
yeah,
think
nah.
after a
Your wife
while,
got
He said
pregnant
he
by
was
the
going to
Holy
divorce her
Spirit.
quietly.
Yeah.
An angel came to him and said,
and yeah,
nah,
and that's the thing, like, he did get that confirmation on a
Yeah,
spiritual
multiple
level.
Yeah.
I'm
But you
sure
know-
no angels came to James and them, bro. They was just like, yeah, my brother say he the Messiah, but he be chatting, bro. Like, he failed his math homework. Like, your Messiah can't do algebra? Alright, cool.
White linen thing with some halos and wings. I don't believe none of that. Nah, bro.
you think the angels was black too?
I hope so. But you know, they have heads of lions and alligators and
I was
all
about
that
to say,
stuff.
do you
There's
mean
a
like
lot
when
of
they
different
show
types of
themselves
angels,
to
bro.
people?
So like,
Because
yeah.
I think when they
'Cause they
show
shit
themselves
shit.
to people, they it would take, and
I
it
can't wait to
they'd
see
probably
that.
be more black than
We
anything.
gon-
I can't
Nah,
wait to
we're
meet
probably not
black
gonna be scared because we don't have our glorified bodies. We probably
Yeah.
be like, oh wow, that's what they look like.
Also,
That's crazy.
I'm like prepared. I'm mentally preparing myself to see the wildest thing ever.
Oh yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, like the like these are what angels. I'd be like, it's not even that crazy. It's crazier than that.
Yeah.
It's even wilder.
That's what I-
It looks
that's what
like
I
something out of
think.
a Guillermo del Toro horror
Yeah.
film.
I feel like it looks something like what was that movie? Hellboy, where they took him to the mountain and he got stabbed
Yeah.
by the prince. I feel like it would look something like that. How like it had the hands on it,
Yeah.
but like the wings would be wrapped around and just freaky. Just
Yeah.
something freaky like that.
Very
Something
wild.
But like, why
like
did
if-
God make them look like that?
because
He
he,
was in his
he
bag.
came.
Like, you just doing stuff.
He was
you
like,
can.
yeah, and
'Cause
these
they're
ones,
different beings.
and these ones gonna be.
It's like this, you know
He
what I'm saying?
said,
So, like,
and
the
these ones gonna be
angels
rings
made
with eyes on
Yeah.
them.
probably
Wow.
the likeness of all the creations. I guess I don't know. I don't
Maybe.
know.
What was your question? Oh, why did us?
Yeah,
I
Our
do have a
generation.
way.
You was talking.
Yeah, I
to
do
me.
have an answer.
We always do that.
Yeah, we
Go
do.
ahead.
Basically, I will say I feel like it's because the younger generations are being taught to be more progressive and to be more in tune with a lot of things like you know how of course everything you feel is validated. It doesn't matter what anybody says about it. What you feel is very important, which is the truth. But you know what I'm saying, you very well could have, you know, the wrong, I don't want to say the wrong feelings because we are a being that has this flesh capsule that our spirit lives in. So whatever you feed is whatever's going to be stronger. You know what I'm saying? And like the life that we have chosen to walk, we don't go with what the world says, but the world will tell you many things. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I do believe every single person who lives a lifestyle that has to do with sin should be treated with respect and should be treated as a person because that's how you help people heal from those situations, whether they're a drug addict and whether they're
whether they do things that have to do with like sex, like they have sexual deviancies, or like whether they decide.
I think that's one of the main reasons.
Well, yeah, because sexual sins are so different because every other sin you do against somebody else, but a sexual sin you sin against yourself.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's that much different. Not necessarily in, you know, the fact that you did the act, but the fact that one, because each and every sin comes with the thought process, the trigger, the whatever means it takes to get the job done, and then the fact that you did the job done. So the deeper you get into that hole, the more you end up sinning, because it's not just that one thing anymore. Sometimes you have to do this, sometimes you have to do that. Like for most, you know, rappers who need, not rappers, but people who end up rapping, you know what I'm saying, about the life that they lived, if they was really in that life, they did 3 or 4 sins to commit one. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only did you spin this block and end up hitting somebody and possibly took a life, or, you know what I'm saying, hurt somebody in a very bad way, you thought about it, you went and got the guns, you went and got your homie's car, you went and got, you know what I'm saying, like you plotted and did all those things in order just to achieve one thing. Same thing with like somebody who does drugs a lot. Like, you know what I'm saying, you thought about it, you had the itch or the urge, and you went and found somebody selling it, you had to get some money, so you got the money somehow, some way, then you went and paid for it, and then you
Or
did
you
it.
stole the money.
Yeah. That's why I said
Or you
got the
committed
money
a
somehow.
sexual deviancy for the money.
Yes, and also, and then like,
Or just for the drugs directly.
right, and then it starts to, you know what I'm saying, add on, and then like, nowadays, we're getting to the point where we're trying to, not saying that these people shouldn't be treated with respect, but, you know, choosing that profession, you're choosing everything that comes with it, and the type of people who are customers to that type of industry. You know, we're talking about sex work, you know what I'm saying, like, we are, as a generation, we're trying to defend sex workers, and it's like, oh, groom young women to want to grow up and to be sex workers, when we know that for generations, the literal, like, #1 target for newborn serial killers are prostitutes, because they're the easiest ones to get, and they're the easiest ones to, you know, usually the way they think is nobody's gonna miss this person. They're not gonna come, if they get away, they're not gonna come report it because they were prostituting. So, you know, unless you want to serve time because you're there, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, people, not saying that, like, you know what I'm saying, people who are in those positions and chose to live that life should not have, you know what I'm saying, the level of respect that any human being who chose to do certain things in their life should have. But to advocate for it and to, like, portray it to younger people as a viable way of life can kind of get tricky, you know what I'm saying? And, like, not to go too deep into it, but, like, a lot of people, not necessarily that I've talked to, but, like, a lot of radicals when it comes to, like, the LGBT community, like, they talk a lot about how, you know what I'm saying, we care so much about what it is they do with their bodies, which one I don't. My thing is more, if you continue to choose to sin, then that's who you are. So I think the common misconception is that, oh, God's going to send me to hell. Like, no, God is not going to send you to hell. He's going to let you choose it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he's the same way he has free will, we have free will. So allowing us to make decisions in our life every day, allowing us to go out and sin. Because then, at the end of the day, that means if we're following him, we're truly choosing him. That means we truly do love him. Because it's not easy. Like,
Heck no, it's not
like,
easy.
y'all have to understand,
I
like,
still be horny to this day. I'm just being humble and open and
you was doing
transparent.
so well. You was doing so well. I feel you. I do feel you.
It's a crazy sound.
That is a crazy soundbite though, bro. I'm just saying, we feel you. We feel you, but that's.
I mean, if we're gonna keep it real,
I mean,
let's
yeah.
keep it real. Let's keep it funky.
You know what I'm saying?
This is what our generation, like, nobody's gonna speak this way to our generation.
Yeah, that's a
and I
fact.
think that's one of the reasons why they don't, or they shy away from the church, because they think the church is full of hypocrites and people who
Well,
don't
yeah,
understand.
and that's what I was going to ask towards your point, is you've given a good viewpoint on like, I guess, this psychology that our generation kind of has.
Yeah.
But
The
why
ideologies.
does that create a disconnect between them and church directly?
Oh, because they feel like we're being most of the older generation. It's not, like you said, it's not handled with grace. It's more judgmental.
It's very
And
judgmental.
when somebody's just telling you, oh, you did this, you did this, you did this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, that's not how we hear it. You know what I'm saying? It's more like, okay, I feel uncomfortable in this space.
So it's hard for
What
me
you
to.
about to say?
I feel like it is
realize
a
what's going
combination
on.
of like the judgment, but then also most people, especially young people, don't want to be confronted with what's wrong with them.
Also,
They don't
yeah.
want
Absolutely
to be
not.
put into their face, so they just
Absolutely not.
avoid the situation altogether and take the easy way out.
You know,
you do have to do some soul searching.
yeah. You know what's something I've been thinking about. You know, if you guys been watching long enough, you know that I'm an entertainer. I want to, you know, make my career and lifelong being as in entertainment. I'm an actor, writer, music, right? And Hollywood and the music industry and all that, right, has its many layers and
The boy is talented.
has its many layers of you know, issues and problems and
Yeah.
such and such. And without even getting deep into that, I am often surrounded around different people who don't, for whatever personal reasons, I guess, go to church or even really have a good relationship with God. Don't go into church. Who grew up in the church.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I can literally name people who I've watched them go through whatever their journey is, whether they, you know, a spiritual journey or whatever the case may be, self-learning, all of these things, and how that's kind of put a wane on their own personal relationship with God, the church, etc., etc. And it made me think about, I personally have a personal problem with how I feel like the older generation handles a lot of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the sins and how they talk about them in church, especially sexual things, and then like a separate but connected umbrella sexual orientation or gender expression, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I have the problem with it because, like you said, it comes from a judgmental place. There's very little room for like understanding, like,
Yeah.
and
in reality, they was doing the same thing we was doing.
Mm-hmm.
and I also think,
Freaknik did not happen in the 2000s.
It was not us.
but I think another reason why I don't like it is, even though I don't really like, I'm human, right? So have I like fallen victim to perversions or like urges of the flesh before? Absolutely. Will I more than likely again before I die? If I was a gambling man, I'd bet yes. But
Yeah.
I don't like view myself in like some like perverted light, or even some like in the way that like the older generation would kind of speak about. But I do feel a likeness with a lot of these people who are consider or feel themselves outcasted, because I know that there are things that I face that are very different from those things that receive the same judgment, just maybe not the same attention.
Yeah.
And so I know that, okay, you're talking to him that way, you're talking to her that way, you're talking to them that way, viewing them under this lens of their sin.
Right.
And I know that if you knew my sin, if I was to put it on Front Street, you'd view me in that same lens, just for a different sin.
Yeah.
And because I've always had that very great self-awareness of myself, I've always hated the way I feel like most Christians and the older generation handles that. And so, and it's not just the older generation, because I have peers who are like that as well. And it's just like, it made me think to myself, how is your way, right, of like bridging that gap? And I don't have the answers by any means, and I don't even know if this is really like viable. But one thing that came to me was, I think because evangelism is so important when it comes to like a pillar of like Christianity, and it's like what we are like supposed to do, that we oftentimes just feel like that is like, this is the Lord and this is his word, and beating people over the head with it until they comply. And if they have a thing in their life that like is outside of his word, it's about explaining to them how and why his word is his word, and how that thing is, you know, perversion of flesh and it's not their spirit, and, you know, whatever the case may be. And I've always just thought about like, take that kind of mentality and apply it to anything under the sun, and it's not gonna work. If I break the law every day and all you do is keep telling me the law and how I need to follow it, and you keep doing it under this judgmental distance lens, I promise you, you're just making a greater criminal. I'm only going to find more ways to not get caught, more crimes to get into. I'm not going to turn to a life of, you know, being a good, upstanding citizen. And so I'm like, well, if that method's like not going to work, right? And a lot of these methods, like when we're talking about, especially things like sexual orientation, gender expression, right? Like a lot of the times, if you're gay and you're in the church and you're hearing most of the things that people are saying, even if where they're coming from is the right place, right, is the word, is the text, a lot of it's just be like, this is just homophobic. And it do be homophobic, right? A lot of, or if it's addiction or sexual stuff, it's like a lot of this is just judgmental to that highest degree. Like, you're really just a bigot behind Jesus. Like, that doesn't change your bigotry. So I've thought about it, and I'm like, well, maybe if we took some, as Christians, we removed some of our personal responsibility for conversion, and we just did like what we're supposed to do, which was cultivate an environment where someone can grow closer to God.
And not just that, other things. Like, you're supposed to be healed. Like, you're supposed to be able to come to the church and be healed.
And I just feel like oftentimes you'll listen to a sermon or you'll listen to, even just regular conversation, and you can understand like why, if someone was to fall under one of those umbrellas or hit by one of those things, they don't even want to be in that ecosystem or that environment. And after not wanting to be in that ecosystem and that environment for long enough, and these people who are like, I'm just saying his word, I'm just telling you what his will is, yada yada yada, your distaste or even hatred spurns from just those people to who they claim to represent. Well, the reality is 9 times out of 10 the representation is the problem, right? Well, 10 times out of 10 because we're dealing with Jesus, but in general, like for most situations, the representation is the problem. And so I'm just like, well, why is it in church that we have to like address directly so many specific things in regards to like why do you have to do a sermon about why adultery is a sin and like why it's terrible, like for a whole, why can you not rather like speak about Jesus in a way that brings people to him so they grow in their understanding of him? And I'm almost sure, right, if someone engages in sin repeatedly and they grow closer and closer on a true spiritual level with God, eventually he'll do that work for them. With them rather. But I feel like a lot of times feel like it's our responsibility to do that work. And I'm just like, if I just get, like, Jesus is, right, if you look at whatever, if you just look at sin as an affliction, Jesus is the medicine. All we have to do is prescribe. But we're like trying to physically and reach our hands into the spirit. And a lot of times I just wonder, like, there may be room for that in certain situations or specific scenarios. But in general, why has the church kind of become a place for like conversion therapy and like correctional therapy and not an environment where people feel like they can come and learn Christ and grow in their relationship with Christ? If I feel like, right, if I have whatever I deal with and I feel like, well, here is this person that I want to get to know, or here's this entity that I want to get to know, and I grow and I read, even if I pick and parcel the word I read so that I don't ever feel like hit dog, right, because I don't want to be addressed with my shortcomings or whatever the case may be, eventually as my spirit grows in that direction, I'm going to come to those two roads diverged by a yellow wood, and I'm going to have to make a clear choice. And depending on how I choose, depends on how that, but if I'm making that walk with Christ myself, like, why don't we have, like, I guess, like, more trust in God to, like, be the medicine? Because, you know what I mean? Like,
I feel like the difference between what we understand now and what the older generation didn't understand is that they don't preach relationship, they preach religion.
Yup. Right. Absolutely.
And
big facts.
You preach religion,
it should be like 10 more minutes.
This was about to die. Yeah, when you preach religion, that's what comes with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take the words and you kind of take them at like face value.
Yeah.
And interpret it in your own way, and you take away from the text. You know what I'm saying? And then apply your own feelings onto it, which is detrimental because we're vain at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So like, especially for like somebody who, I would say somebody who has like, a multi-million-dollar company running out of a church, essentially,
You know what I'm saying? Those people have like an image to keep up, so like they do certain things that will go with their image. Like Joel Osteen smiles a lot. He has a specific type of cadence. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause he's a brand. That is a person who is not only is he a pastor, he's kind of like a celebrity. You feel me?
Great
Ain't kind of like that.
speaker.
He is a celebrity.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, very great motivational speaker. You know what I'm saying?
But he
There's
don't
certain
be
times.
spitting like that, bro. If you gonna keep it.
There's certain times
From
where
a
I'm listening
motivation
to Joel-
standpoint, he do. From like a
Yeah,
textual
like
standpoint, nah, not that much.
it's very different. You know what I'm saying? Like one thing that I have realized growing over, like getting older and understanding is just like if I can't make it make sense to somebody, they're not gonna want to understand it. There's a clip of a perfect example is as simple as it is, and it's funny to hear. Nardowick was on a show. They asked him something. He was like, "Well, this is how I looked at it. If I can make $5,000, $8,000 robbing you, why would I clock it for work?" And they was laughing at him, but he was dead serious.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to that young man, I have this blick, you got bread. If I stick you up with it, I can take it from you, and now I have money. That makes a lot more sense
I
than
didn't have to work for it.
exactly. Like why would I? Dudes don't even. Some people don't even make that in 2 weeks. I made that in 5 minutes, 15 minutes, however long it took him to give it to me, and I walked away.
Yep.
You feel me? And then when I get low, I can just do it again because somebody else is gonna have some more money.
Yep.
You feel me? If I can't make it as simple as that, there is no reason for them to turn. If you think about it,
That's a fact.
because Jesus made it very simple for everybody he came in contact with. They didn't have to jump through hoops. He asked them 2 questions, max. They're healed. You know what I'm saying? Like the man whose son was back at the crib and he was sick, and he went and found him. He told him, he's like, "Yo, I believe that you are who you say you are. I have many people who serve under me. I tell somebody to go somewhere, they go. I tell somebody to jump, they jump. So I know what it's like to be a man of authority, and I'm asking you, can you save my son?" He said, "Because of your faith, your son is now saved." The lady who was dealing with bleeding, I ain't gonna lie, when he walked up to her, he kind of spit. He was like, "Where's your husband?" "I don't have one." "Yeah, because you had 5.
He violated.
He did got a violate. That was, I ain't gonna lie, that's funny. But I think he said that because only like he would know that.
Yeah. Facts.
So because she wasn't from that region, if I'm not mistaken. So like, you know, and the blind man, you know what I'm saying? He even asked him, "Do you want to be healed?" Because, you know, sometimes people will say, "Oh yeah, I want to be this, I want to be that," but still live the lifestyle and try to take all those things that made them as, you know what I'm saying, in the place that put them in the place they was in. They try to take that into life.
Yep.
But you can't do that because you are new now. He has made you a new thing. You are no longer what afflicted you in the beginning. So now you have to live, move, stand up, and walk in that. You know what I'm saying? And some people just, you know, relapse. And it's understandable.
I also think, I'm so glad that, because I was thinking that exact word, relapse. I also think that's like not spoken about enough in a very real way in church. It's like every Christian, let them tell it in public. They were a sinner, God, they found Christ in whatever manner or fashion, they chose him, and since then, they've been perfect. Sin ain't even been a thought.
Right. This morning.
And the reality is, if that was even what was expected of us, the text would look a lot different. He wouldn't have to talk about grace and mercy that much. He'd probably have to mention the ones like, yeah, you get grace. And but we have so many stories and parables. We have so many examples. We talk about faith, XYZ, because it ain't this simple linear thing. And I think one thing that I've learned so much about, like within the past few years of just becoming an adult, is one of the most difficult parts of life is we as human beings, as spiritual beings encased in flesh, right? We experience so many things that are non-linear, but we must deal with them in a linear fashion because we are trapped in a linear means, meaning the way time exists. Addiction, trauma, healing, abuse, most of these things are cyclical or sporadic. There is no linear blueprint for none of the things we go through, but we are forced to deal with them linearly because we don't have the option to stop time or go back or jump. We only have every single second that passes and moves in front of the next. And so it makes things so complex. I'm going through on a spiritual level all of these things that are so cyclical or so non-linear. I'm grief. I'm telling myself that I should be now better than I was last week, but I am not. And that is a step backwards. Well, if I'm moving backwards while moving forwards, that's an issue. And all of those things create so much internal conflict.
Yeah.
Whereas if we were just like for a moment could stop and be like, as you said, you are anew. You cannot carry the old into the new life, but know that you will relapse. And it doesn't mean you don't love God or he doesn't love you. And it doesn't mean that you're bad and terrible. And it doesn't mean that you're going to go to hell. All it means is that at some point in your journey, you will sin again. You will make that mistake again. Maybe the sin that was like the thing for you, you'll be forced with the urge, or you'll be tempted, or you may even fall victim.
Because the devil never rests, bro.
Well, he's clocking every molecular second.
This man does. I don't even think he has the ability to sleep. Like, I honestly don't. Because if we're being honest,
I want to know what he looked like.
He don't get tired.
I promise you.
I want to know
He's
what he
blonde
looked like
hair
as
and blue eyes.
Lucifer.
I guarantee you.
But that would be an assumption that he has a human form. I think he has a human form.
I'm sure
I don't
he
think
has
that's
a
his
human
natural form.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I feel like the angel, the seraphim, that
It is a
Satan
evil
is.
Lucifer?
Yeah.
But here's what's wild. I think we only think that because it's him, because it's such a hard name.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, just
The
the
name
phonics
Lucifer,
of the
I
name
forgot what it
Lucifer
meant.
is a, like that.
But it doesn't mean
That
it
name
doesn't mean
is
like
so
something bad.
fire, but like
It is a
it's
good
his
name.
name, so it's like if you name your kid. This is gonna sound wild. I think gonorrhea is a beautiful name, but what gonorrhea is, you'll never listen to the phonics of it.
I hear what you're
Gonorrhea.
saying.
It sounds not. What makes that any different from like a Mariah or like a? The phonics of them are very similar. I think gonorrhea is a beautiful sounding word, but gonorrhea is gonorrhea, so you can't name anything you
Yeah,
care
no,
about
it's not
gonorrhea.
Yeah.
I just think
But I
Lucifer
think
has
that's
the
the
same
same.
affliction.
Yeah.
You know, it's that's funny.
I
you
wonder if
say
he can
that.
still sing.
Duh.
Come on, bro.
What do you mean? What you
Look
thought
at
he
her
lost?
singing right now.
The only
That was wild.
The only thing he lost was his ability to stay in heaven. That's literally all he lost. This man is literally down here with all of the knowledge he had up there. Every single thing. Like, I don't think people understand that. Like, the Bible isn't the end of the story. You have to go and get more context. There are multiple books that are in line and give a broader view of what was going on during the times than the books in the Bible. The only reason the 66 that we read are in the Bible is because there was a group of people who sat down one year way back when and was like, what are we leaving in this and what are we taking out? You know what they took out? They took out over 100 books. So you want to, like, the people who wrote the Bible did not have the Bible. They just wrote books that they were writing because
Basically a bunch of diaries.
pretty much, you know what I'm saying? All of these were just divinely inspired. So that's pretty much it. God gave them the urge to write the books. A lot of people wrote different things and, you know, was going through their life because a lot of people was following God at the same time and over a large span of time. You know what I'm saying? And it's like there are plenty of texts that almost line by line, timeline wise, line up with what's going on, but have more description of what, you know, was going on.
I need to read those.
Definitely.
No, you should.
The book of Enoch will tell you exactly why the flood was sent. Of course, the Bible just says because people had evil in their heart and minds continually, but the reason why was because people had found out a way to splice themselves with animals. You look at Egyptian hieroglyphics and wonder why there's men with bird heads and.
You saying splice just makes it so scientific.
I mean,
But I'm sure it was
is scientific.
I know, but like I'm sure like the actual action was very carnal. But like it
I
sounds
feel like it was a lot more
was in the lab like
easy
It
than
was
what.
bestiality, or they was.
No,
cook this up.
they were. Have you ever seen hieroglyphics? Have you seen what Horus looks like? He has a bird head in a man's body.
Who?
Horus? You don't know who? Never mind. That's Egyptian mythology. But I don't think it's mythology because mythology makes no sense. Well, it's not that it doesn't make sense. A lot of them tell the same stories in different ways. All of the.
They basically all tell the same story.
Yeah.
Is it HORC?
Horus.
Horus.
Yes.
HOR. Like, oh.
Like all of Greek mythology came from the island of Crete. One of
They was
Jacob's.
doing this?
No, one of Noah's grandsons set a dot on the creek.
That was hilarious.
What did he say?
He said, "Oh, they was doing this."
How they do this though?
Okay,
American
I don't.
Horror Story.
That's
Murder
not hieroglyphics. That's a graphic. I don't know. If
Well,
that's
I
what
I
he
want to
actually
see the
looked at.
graphic. That's hard.
That is hard. That's bad, but it's hard.
That'd be a fire tattoo.
How are they doing it? I don't know. They had
Throwing it
access
back.
to. I'm pretty sure that's why God sent the flood. It was because they had a lot more access to the knowledge of what's in heaven than we did. You know what I'm saying? Like the devil is the smartest being on the face of the earth. As long as
and he is.
I know
God's
a lot.
spirit ain't around here.
Yeah,
That's why he was so easy to trick
I could probably go head up with him.
us.
Shut up.
Man, hey.
He ain't never seen a brain like this.
You know,
Not
he
yet.
said that some of them you gotta
Hey, y'all
fast
heard
to.
Venus was a virgin.
I don't even
She ain't
know.
got no kids, right?
Venus Williams?
Yeah.
Does she have a husband?
I
I know
she's
Serena.
like, you're saying she was or she still
I think
is?
she still is. I think I seen somebody said something about something.
Shout out to her.
That's interesting if it's
Very
true.
interesting.
I
Seems
low-key wish
hard
I
to
was still a
believe.
virgin just so I didn't know what I was missing out on.
Are you celibate now?
I am.
That's good.
I am.
I did at one point.
I'm celibate too,
Sometimes-
man. I sell a bit of trees. Sell
Oh.
a bit of... I'm joking. I'm joking. That was bad. It was right there. I had to make it.
You know what? I just want to say one more thing. Kind of going back to what you were saying about like relapsing. Like a lot of people don't understand. Like for most of their situations, like a lot of people start young with stuff. So like Lil Wayne said, the first time he did everything was when he was 11 years old. He had sex when he was 11 years old. So you've only been on Earth for 11 years, and you average to live 70, 80. So think about how much time that takes to like add stuff on, and like you create an appetite for something you're never supposed to have an appetite for. So like once you start to quench it,
Fentanyl.
yeah, like it starts
Yeah.
to get, you know what I'm saying? Because the more you feed yourself, the more you want to eat. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, I'm full, but eventually that's gonna digest. Your body's gonna go through its processes, and then you're going to want to eat again.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how
You
it
can
works.
apply that to anything.
Really?
Me, like, y'all know I was literally watching Mr. Ballin before coming here. And, I mean, one thing that's almost universal with any serial killer was, outside of the few who, like, do it because they want to become a famous serial killer, which is a very small number, none of them have plans beyond the first murder. It's just they do it, and that acquiesces whatever their urge was, or whatever their, fixation is, and eventually it subsides, and they gotta get high again. It's just like, and that's why. I mean, not to create like a false equivalent, but like, you talk to most people who do drugs, and they'll tell you the most high that drug will ever get you is your first time around.
Yep.
Because that first hit is different.
Yeah,
Everything
like
after
the
that,
first
you're just
time.
chasing that. And some people, you're satisfied with just the subdued version of it. And some people, that chase means you gotta go up. And that's how you gateway into the next thing, and then into the next thing. And you apply that to just, if you look at sin as a whole,
It can start with
if you start with, you start with the smallest thing,
Yep.
and especially when you're absolutely right, we're usually starting young. If I start, just taking that example, if I steal something at 4 years old and it gives me a different type of rush, by the time I'm 18, I've had 14 years to steal in every type of mixment and add every type of context and taboo. Eventually, I'm going to try to steal the moon. Like, no pun even, you know what I mean? I'll go as big as I can humanly get. And it's just a very real thing.
That's a living. Like, that's people's everyday struggle, bro.
Yeah.
There are people who really don't get go through these bouts repeatedly. There's people who get clean, go back, get clean, and then stay clean. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people who struggle with it every day still. You know what I'm saying? Still have the urges, but just have enough willpower to say no to themselves.
Me.
That's why I love
It's
Ali
me.
and
Sorry.
Euphoria. Because
So you love food?
Ali,
Oh.
because it's just like, he's never selling brew on some, I'm this super duper wonderful, but he's like, I'm an addict just like you're an addict, but I'm somewhere a bit further in my recovery than you are. And so I'm just trying to take you under my wing and give you all the things that I wish I would have known when I was your age, doing all the things you're doing, and then eventually causing all the harm.
hard drugs though.
Okay,
She
so
been
I haven't
doing
started
hard
this season
drugs.
yet.
Oh, you haven't stopped? Well, she's doing the
Okay,
same drugs.
okay,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she
Same drugs. Same drugs. Sorry.
Um,
Does that happen to y'all? Like somebody will say something and then you're automatically associated with a song?
Yeah.
not always a song, but I do associate things. But sometimes it'll be like something from a show or a movie. Or
Yeah, same. Yeah, that too.
I have a SpongeBob reference for anything that happens in life. And majority of my brain power, like I'd say almost any given second where I'm with other people and things are occurring, 40% of my brain is dedicated to not bringing up every SpongeBob example that goes to whatever we're talking about.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's there's literally a SpongeBob. I mean, like people be like, there's a SpongeBob meme for everything. Like, there's a whole reference to anything that could ever happen.
Yeah.
Like, and when I'm with like Tyler and like Thaddeus, y'all don't know, but those are two of my closest homies. Like, they're the same way. So if you're around us, there's just SpongeBob references galore. And if you're not a SpongeBob head, you're gonna be like, what are you talking? And then we'll say one that you'll know about. And you're like, oh yeah, I don't know that one.
I understood that reference.
But it's now for we started at 8:10, so yeah, we could get ready to wrap up. Our rapid question before we outro, we're talking about youth in the church, and so you know, to stay in the same vein. At first, my like question was gonna be like, who's your favorite person in the Bible? But I'm actually gonna switch it up and make it even more advanced. If you were like granted the opportunity to live any person in the Bible's life, who would you choose?
The closer you get to Jesus, the worse they
I
die.
would say-
So
I would definitely.
I just
Thank
No
you,
cap.
Encyclopedia
That's
man. That was wild.
I'm just
That's
saying,
true.
the closer you get, the people
It's true,
who had the
but-
most faith suffer the
Yeah,
worst.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, Captain Faith himself, the numero uno,
It's
and
a lot
the
of
worst
people
death
in
of
the
them
Bible.
all.
Boy, the 12, they died just as bad. Some of them died even worse. Somebody was decapitated. Somebody was put on the X version of a cross upside down.
I remember that.
Hey, who they do that to? I ain't even know.
I don't
Read
remember
that.
who they did it to, but
Rest in peace to the
Gruesome.
homie.
Judas even hung himself.
Yeah, but he was a coward.
Fast.
I have to say David, mainly because I've always been low-key envious of the phrase "a man after God's
Yo, it's the
heart."
hardest phrase
Like-
ever.
Like
That phrase is so
I
cold.
want that in
Like,
me. Like
that's a
I
fact,
want
bro.
that. Like
That is a true
I would
fact.
go through all of that.
Nah,
And David is fine. Even though he's crazy.
No, yeah, he got the
He's
shit, but he,
crazy.
but he does have
Latter
the,
years
But like
was,
even the
he
crazy
has
stuff
the
he
coldest
did,
story.
like
I think,
killing
outside of
Uriah
Jesus.
and stealing Bathsheba, I'm
Yeah,
like, you
that
are
was-
ridiculous.
That was wild.
But that's
Nah, that was
Wow.
valid at the same time. Like you,
wild.
Bro,
man.
he lied to his general.
Yes.
And not only
Just to
he
cover
sent
it up.
him with
he
you
said
know
with his
that
own.
that's pure.
Yes.
It's like I know you're so obedient that I can give you the instructions for your own death. Tell you not to look at them, and
Yep.
you will real deal not look at them.
Yeah.
And he real deal didn't look at
He did not
them.
look at them.
Yo, that's a
bro.
don't
But
look
that
at these.
message still
Bring
got
it to the people on the front
everybody else,
lines.
Yes. Yeah, I would pick David.
I know.
What it
they
say,
had
Dan?
that
Y'all ready
big
for
show.
battle? He's like, yeah, we ready now. I'm like, no,
That's wild.
no.
David
Especially
was
Trump.
playing no game.
Nah, yeah.
That's crazy.
I rocks with that. David's a good choice. Y'all have a.
I'm gonna be honest, bro. Even though his latter years were kind of messed up because of his one son being just a disgusting person, I'm gonna say Noah because I like saying "I told you so."
That is
Okay.
awful.
Yeah, pretty vague reason, but all right.
It's very vague, but I definitely would because, like I said, in the books, like the extra, I call them extra biblical texts because they just kind of be synonymous with what's going on. There was a chapter in the book of, I think it was either the book of Jasher or the book of Enoch, where it was talking about the flood and how the people of the time started
when the rain started, and they saw that it wasn't going anywhere and it was getting high, they started banging on the doors for the boat. And you know, this boat was big, so it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying, these people are, and there's like a significant crowd. Right. And it's a whole bunch of people out there. Like, imagine, like, I don't want to say a football stadium's worth, but enough to fit on a football field. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine that, looking out and seeing that many people saying, let us in, let us in. And he looks over out of the crowd and says, I told y'all for 150 years to stop repenting. And now y'all want to come in? And he leaves, and a group of wild animals run the crowd off. So, that's amazing. And I would be laughing. It's like, this is the God that you chose to ignore. Look, there's lions and tigers and bears, and they're going to die. They don't care. They're coming after y'all, though. So y'all got to get out of here. I got all the good ones, so them is...
I feel like mine would be a tie between Abraham and James. James, because obviously he's Jesus' brother, but Abraham...
you know he ain't have a kid till he was like 90, right?
So?
You know he almost killed his own son.
Exactly.
Almost.
I mean, almost.
Almost.
Yeah, almost.
That's still scary. You know they was both weeping. Because his son understood what was happening.
I would have.
Ooh.
He was telling his dad,
I got caught in traffic, bro. Like, I would have been like, didn't I tell you to take him to the mountain? I'm like, bro, I'm not killing my son,
You
gang.
see all these sheeps?
This is clearly an intrusive thought. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah,
This is these are intrusive thoughts. Chill on me.
Either Abraham, or I was gonna say Samson, but they did that man so dirty. But
I mean, he got the last laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel he did, but I'm the type of I need to exact my revenge and feel it. Yeah, like if my revenge and I'm down with you.
That's what I'm saying.
He couldn't see. But I mean, at least that pain only lasted a little bit.
Because I don't think James died that bad.
Was he one of Jesus' 12 disciples?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, then no, he didn't die as bad as he did. Probably not. I don't know.
Mine is also a two-way tie. They just realized that the names both start with J. It's between Job and John the Baptist.
I was gonna say Job.
Okay.
For John the Baptist, even though you know he went out real sad.
He went out gangster.
He went out like Ned.
Yeah, very Ned. He went out very much like Ned.
Very Stark-esque.
But it's just something about like, man,
You brutal vipers.
him in my eyes. Like outside of Jesus is the him, but like John the Baptist is him. Like I've been gang with the man himself since in the womb.
Well,
like since before we was even born, we was gang. Like I baptized Christ himself. It's the first time the Son, the Father, and Spirit converge in one physical plane together, and I was right there.
This is my Son whom I have chosen.
But this Father, Son, Spirit, and John the Baptist, like put some respect on my name. Like he just, and I mean, I just think the level.
He said, "No greater man."
The level. Come on, the level of honor he had, the level of grace, wisdom. Just like he him to me. So he would be, and then Job, because I just feel like I have a propensity to like, not to get too like vulnerable or weird. I have the propensity to focus on the negative. And I think that like if I lived Job's life and then came back to living mine, I would just like have a greater, not even just appreciation, but like also like I think a greater understanding of pain. Like there are like there's
absolutely.
like and living his whole story so that like it's not just going through everything, but like then like coming out. I think a lot of times it's like there are certain people, and this is very real. There are certain people that just go through things and they really do never come out the other side. Like their whole life is just a fight and it's pain and then they die. And I'm just like, who's to say I'm not one of them? Like I get that like the hope it, but like the reality could just be like maybe. And I just think living a life with so much trial and tribulation and so much like Job's pain is very specific. Like nothing that happens to him is like a very just passive thing. Like it's so specifically targeted. It happens in order to hurt him more and more compoundedly as it continues. So like I just think experiencing that, living that life, and coming through the other side, and keeping that faith. Faith's something I've like struggled with all my life. And so I just think like his life, there's so much that Emmanuel can really grow and benefit from. And I have just in learning his life, but like there's no better way to learn anything than experience it. So
Yeah.
those are my choices.
I think those are
That's
good.
cool.
Yeah, good reason.
I'm glad nobody said lot.
I was thinking about that. I said, Sarah, she gone.
That's wild because like I understand like being specifically told not to do something, and so then like your every urge is to do it.
But like, why did you want to look back in the first place?
I feel like she
man,
was
that's her
walking in
home.
front of other people, and then they saw her look back, and then it was like
They like, I ain't looking at
Well, we know we ain't doing
I ain't doing that. No.
Keep it going.
Cool on that.
That's
Oh my
wild
God.
though, like, cause like I couldn't even imagine just like proceeding. Like I'd just be like staring, like
But yeah.
trying to almost bring her like, what is like what? That's just
The
wild.
pillar of salt.
that's really crazy. Cause like I wonder what about it made her. I wonder if God just like turned her so, or if it was something that would happen if you looked at it regardless,
Mhm.
because of what he was doing. Just in, you know,
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
maybe.
Like and
That's a good.
that's why he was probably
specific
telling them.
question.
That
Don't
place
look.
was disgusting though.
And it gets worse. It's not as bad. The Bible doesn't even give half as bad as it really was. There's like texts that are called the Legends of the Jews, and they like give a whole bunch of. And then there's like the Abraham
Fire.
It's
Ryan.
like, why do they know about that stuff back then?
Cause
I
there's
mean,
nothing
it's-
new under the sun.
Yeah, it's history.
Yes.
Bro, there was a story that there was like a few like accounts of people who like lived in the two cities. They said that people who were new, doesn't matter if you were male or female, if you got like finessed, somebody would like finesse you basically, take all that you have, and then like they would rape you in front of the city, like in the front of like in the front city doors, rape you right there, leave you there, and anybody else who decided they wanted to do so too would then do it until you died. This wasn't like a sentence or anything. This was just new people coming to the cities.
Could you imagine just being like, hey, we're just going on a small vacation. It's like this little town off to the side.
I heard it gets wild there.
Yeah, we're just gonna spend some time away from the kids.
You spend some time away from the kids, alright.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That like,
forever.
not that it's anywhere near equivalent, but that just reminds me of like the islands, like the remote islands that like don't have like accept any outsiders and like just kill all people, and like
Yeah.
all of the white people who have just died because they're just like, I can make them be friends.
Yeah.
They like me and my boat. We're getting just like.
You are dumb. You are.
And I think the wildest part of all of those examples is just that like your family never even gets your body back. Like they kill you and they bring you. And I mean, Lord knows what happens.
Yeah.
But it's just like
I always wonder, like, with Snake Island, how do you get to it?
You don't.
Yeah. You have to like parachute in.
probably, something like
That stuff like that be confusing me because they be having like full on tripod type shots. Like, how you set up that camera there, bro? Like,
that. They
You
probably
wouldn't
have
dare.
a really great zoom, and they just look like they're closer than they are.
maybe, but like
There's some
sometimes
crazy
ground
zooms
angles.
out here in the world now.
Maybe they just be taking snakes and putting them in an area that look like that place. and like recreate it and just put a whole bunch of snakes like, you know what I'm
no
saying?
one's been
Like,
here.
it's a whole
They're
island,
not gonna
so you
know.
have to use water to get there. Are there snakes in
I
the
mean, you
water
could fly over it
surrounding it?
depending on how far it is from the nearest like mainland.
I mean, you can fly over anywhere. Really.
Yeah, if you got enough
Yeah,
gas.
even if it's far. Like.
So is there
yeah,
really
like,
snakes like all over this place?
That's
Yes.
what they say.
I mean, I don't think
That's
they named it Snake
It's like
Island
I was
'cause
gonna say.
there's mongooses there.
So what?
That's
No,
good. No, good.
I was just thinking, like, what's their prey? What are they eating? It's
Each
all
other.
snakes.
Probably. It's like
Because
Monkey
I would
Island.
think if there's so many, all the
Monkey
stuff
Island just
that's
eating
there to
fruits.
eat, they've been ate it.
Yeah. Unless they
What
definitely
do snakes eat
cannibalize.
anyways?
Snakes eat other
Rodents?
snakes. They eat rodents. They eat.
Yeah, I know they eat
birds.
rodents, but I
Like lizards.
kind of always figured that snakes eating rodents was like a domesticated snake thing. I was like, why would a snake and a rat even be in the same hood? Like,
They
I
eat
mean,
a
they like
rat.
little,
real
like-
life.
You know what I'm saying? Some snakes like burrow in like barns and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Yeah.
Or like, you know what I'm saying? They just might be in an area where, you know, there's just something that rats like.
Do y'all have?
Because you know, predators find prey.
True.
Yeah.
Do y'all have the like snake in the toilet fear?
Yes. There was a frog in
Mine's
my toilet
always a
once.
spider.
I just feel like like a spider like could be bad, but like a snake could be like lethal.
Deadly.
I've definitely there's definitely been a frog
I
in
hate
mine before.
snakes.
Really? There's been a scorpion in my toilet.
I really like this case.
It's not. It was like regular. It was like an American scorpion, so you know they don't.
Yeah, they ain't got no.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
No smoke.
There's been a scorpion in my toilet before. It wasn't like a.
But
I don't
was
remember how. I don't remember how that
scary.
frog got out. I think I just kept flushing until it went down.
A frog, that's a hard thing though, cause like their legs are so strong.
Yeah, they gonna stick to that.
It took a minute.
It'll be like, what current? Anyways,
It took a minute.
I'm back
It wasn't.
again.
It wasn't small. It was pretty sizable.
wow.
Yeah, and I was afraid for my life.
Frogs are the.
That could have like did something to
Yeah.
my scrotum. And
Oh,
All right, we are the
that'd be the
YSO
fear, bro.
Podcast.
sorry, I had to.
We'll see you on the next one.
That was the
Nah,
biggest
yeah,
fear I
it was-
had, bro. Because I got up and I saw it. I was like, yo, I was.
Oh man,
Sorry.
that's crazy.
Julie.
With that being said, we are the YSO Podcast. Podcast for the youth, by the youth, giving the voice to the youth by giving the voice to the
Like,
youth.
I stood up.
You know where you can follow me on Instagram at the Villain Period 5390, on TikTok at the Goon of June, on Twitter at RP Lyons. You can go stream all of my music wherever you stream music at. Just search Saint Even. And if you have a Letterboxd, follow me on Letterboxd at the Goon of June.
What is that?
It's about books, right?
No, it's about movies and TV shows.
Those look like books when I was scrolling fast.
Well, yeah, it's just the covers
Yeah,
and posters,
that's
and
not
so it kind of looked like books. But yeah, it's a place to like. I mean, you can do lots of things, but I use it to like document everything I watch.
This man reading.
And
Reading the books, my boy.
and yeah, I just want more people to follow me on Letterboxd, and I want people to be able to follow. And so
The description.
You guys can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ashton Gates with 2 S's.
You can follow me at _skip to my shoe on Instagram and on Twitter. You also can follow me at prodby.ck. No.
ProdByCK.TDE.
Thank you, Ashton, for knowing my handle.
there you go. And you can follow the podcast on Instagram at YSO Podcast, on Twitter at YSO_podcast.
Do we even tweet?
No, we gonna start though.
That's a good question. We will start tweeting.
Yeah.
On YouTube, Youth Speak Out Podcast. Subscribe, click the notification bell so you always know when we drop. And yeah, with that being said, it's been another day, another night. YSO.
Gang.
Bow.
I gotta pee.
I do too.
Oh man, I'm upset that we gotta go back to freaking S.B. Carter.
So what's wrong with it?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to